that big.
So, Poga, really quickly, talk to me about our intentions with Order.
Alrighty. So, yes. So, first of all, with Order, it's the first, after quite a lot of dilly-dallying and fiddling around with how we want to do sets and sort of finalizing all that stuff, Order is the first set of the second block. Now, I know a lot of people are still confused about how we're doing sort of rotations and legalities and all the rest of it, but Order is the first set of the second block, which means it will still be around once Ascension and whatnot are gone. So I just wanted to get that out there. But what we were trying to do with Order is this is really the first set that we've had quite a lot more of a focus on the metagame and sort of allowing for a few more answers and a few more cards that level the playing field in terms of the metagame. Before this, we've spent most of our time, bulking out the particular options that each faction has, simply just getting more interesting cards into the game without too much of a focus on how it's particularly going to impact the high level of play. But Order is the first set where we sat down and we're like, alrighty guys, how are we going to address some of these issues that have come up in the last, 2 weeks, 2 months, etc., etc. So that has affected our decisions a lot more than other sets. So I guess that's if you had to have a theme for Order, in terms of from a design standpoint, it's how are we going to look at issues that have come up in the meta since.
Okay. So, talk to me about not necessarily what's happening in the patch. Just
hmm
tell me about like what we're wanting to do with the patch.
Alrighty, so with this particular patch, well, to start with, feature hype. Not sure if I can actually tell the couple of features that we're adding into the patch, but there will be some, and they will be convenient. Um,
That's a big buzzword. I we probably can't say exactly what they are,
no, I don't
but the
think so.
features that are going in for anyone watching, these are what's referred to as quality of life improvements. We're just trying to do anything we can to improve how easy it is to both use and enjoy the client. Is basically what that means.
It's
So
a good
talk
step.
to me about balance, so, some changes. Not
Alrighty,
not necessarily what they are, but tell me what we're
yeah.
trying to do.
Okay, so in Order, we have put in a few more what I like to call fail safes. So when we're sort of experimenting with a new mechanic or a new keyword, or in the case of the Overseers, using a previously existing keyword like flying and really sort of pushing that a little, and really sort of taking that to a next step in terms of power for a faction, we we also have to implement these fail safes. We don't create the effects and we do not create the cards presuming that they're going to be dominant and presuming that they're going to be overpowered, but we have to be under the assumption that that may happen at some point down the road. So we have to put in cards that may immediately seem relatively lackluster, very niche, very specific, but they're put in there to be a control mechanism if something like flying or something like, let's say, enrage or something like that gets out of control, then people will be able to turn to these cards to counter that. It's creating a bit more of that rock paper scissors sort of gameplay. Again, it's in a perfect world, we would create these fail-safe cards that are designed to keep particular strategies in check and then never have them really be too relevant because those strategies never really get too much out of control because we balance the rest of the game. But in reality, the players of this game are a lot smarter than we are and have a lot more time to build these decks than we do, and will always find ways of playing this game in ways that we did not intend. So that's another big focus in Order is where in the past we have create a mechanic or create a faction or something like that. It's gotten a bit out of control. We've gone and then fixed, either nerfed it or we've created a card to sort of quell the damage. What we're also trying to do now is we're trying to think 2 or 3 sets ahead in the future and be like, okay, what mechanics do we want to introduce down the road let's start sort of trickling in some counters to those decks now, so that when they do get released 2 or 3 sets down the road, we won't have to be so reactionary to them. We will already have had those sort of set pieces in place, but at the same time, not introducing so many of them that the set is just like completely irrelevant. It's like, why are all these useless cards here? These cards are designed for stuff in a year's time from now. So that's what we're doing. That's one other thing that we're doing with the set as well.
Okay. So with the patch, are we trying to bring other things more in line with that ideal as well?
Um, we are to an extent, obviously, I'm sure I've gone on record saying multiple times that I don't like changing pre-existing cards, but I am sort of breaking my rule with the overseers. Um, I'd like to say for their own good, because um, I am going to repeat for those who are here on my last stream. I am going to be repeating a couple of things that I was going into on the last stream, just because they're going to be relevant here, and I don't want to sort of like leave out anyone that wasn't there for the last stream as well. Um, what the Angels were, the Angels are going to be getting the biggest retroactive change in this next patch. I'm sure some of you have read the forum post that I've sort of been teasing out there a little bit, but the Angels, the Overseers, were created as a learning from the lessons of Exiles. When we created the Exiles, they were a little haphazard, not complete. They didn't really function as a cohesive whole. You couldn't play them through Purity. You could barely play them to Purity, and that was we felt that we messed up on that part. So what we tried to do with the Angels was we tried to go, okay, we're going to create. Oh, by the way, we called them Angels all the time before we had an official name, so it's kind of ingrained, and that's why I kind of say Angels sometimes instead of Overseers. But what we tried to do with the Overseers is we tried to create a fully functional, cohesive faction straight out of the gate, so that you could get your hands on them and you could play them immediately. And people that love the new faction could get a triple purity faction, and they could jump in and play at whatever sort of rating they want. We feel we achieved this a little too well. We we kind of went a little bit too far on the other end of the scale. So, but in doing so, we made them a little bland, a little one-dimensional. We pushed the power and the cohesive factor a bit too far. So what we're doing now is, with the addition of new cards for Angels or Overseers, because of the fact that we're going to have a larger card pool, we feel that we can go back to the pre-existing Overseers cards and retroactively sort of fix them up a little to be a bit more, I wouldn't say flavorful, but a bit more useful, a bit more multi-dimensional. You can use them in dynamic, yeah. These sort of keywords. So that's what we're doing with a lot of. Now, the Angels have always been about two things. They've always been about summoning tokens and ramping them, and then they've also been, in a lesser fashion, about their unique characters. We kind of tried to push this a little bit with Search for the Key. What we're doing is we felt that the unique character sort of portion of their design was a little understated. It was a little too subtle, and it wasn't really pushed in terms of power. So what we're doing now is we're sort of taking that thought process and really sort of pushing it up to the next level and creating, I'll be going into it later, what's now called the champion mechanic. And that's going to involve a retroactive refitting of a lot of the unique angel characters that you've seen at 1 and 2 Purity for the Overseers. I think I had left a list in my last forum post of some of the characters that are being renamed due to this change. Those were not
anyone who wants to find
ones.
that post while he's talking about it, I moved it to the dev corner of our forums. You can find it there.
So yeah, so now this is a big change. It really does change up how they play. They do feel like a completely new faction, honestly. But in saying that, we are doing a lot of testing on the test server. We're still, we're constantly tweaking and we're constantly making changes to make sure that we can get this change out to you guys, achieving what we wanted it to achieve. We know what we want to do with it. We know how strong we want them to be. We know how fun and how interactive we want them to be. And we're just spending these last couple of weeks while you guys are in sort of pre-orders to really tighten that up and get that to where we want it to be.
Okay. Excellent. So we do have a few of our council members in the chat right now, and I will be playing matches against them. So any of my council members, I do appreciate you guys being here. Very much so value that time. So what we're gonna do is this the first one so far. I just started watching. Yeah, this is the first card I've previewed. We're going to preview a lot more in the coming couple hours here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start building a deck while I'm here on stream, and I'm going to let Poga here talk about a couple cards that he has selected himself that he was really excited about coming in order. So let me set up that stream, or that scene, rather, really quickly. Get that card back. Enjoy the Kappa back. We'll get that going, and then we'll get your images going here. Alright. So, which one would you like to talk about first off that list?
Well, got my little list here,
Yep.
so I wouldn't forget it and make a fool of myself. I would like, first of all, to talk about... actually, you know what? Let's talk about that card that you showed the preview for.
It's not on there, though. I can't.
But you could... Everyone knows the picture. You can show the picture.
Oh.
I will... it's a very simple effect. I'll
Okay.
display the...
Okay.
I'll
Hold
detail
on.
the effect.
Let me bring it up then.
Mhm.
I didn't know you wanted to talk about that, but okay. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's all good.
Alright. That's...
Like to keep you on your toes, you know?
Yep, right. Okay. Alright, there you go, guys. There you go. Alright, it's up. It's up. Go for it.
Awesome. Okay, so this card here, the mystery floating filing cabinet in space.
It's a filing
It is to start with. It is called filing cabinet. We're not being fancy about it. The card is called filing cabinet. So it will be. It is a factionless artifact, currently at a 2 cost. It's a 2-drop factionless artifact that has an activatable ability that does not cost anything. You can simply activate it however many times you want. And the effect will be, well, technically it does have a cost. The cost is remove 2 cards from your hand, 2 target cards from your hand to draw a card. So that's pretty much what it does. That's all it does. You can do it as many times as you want per turn, granted that you have the cards. And the reason that we wanted this card, the reason that we wanted to put this card in the game, is because we're playing around with a new mechanic. It's sort of like the what's it called? What do you call it when you're sort of like foreboding a new thing that will come eventually?
Foreshadowing?
There we go. Okay, so this is
My
the
vocabulary
foreshadowing.
wins.
Yes, it does. So this is the foreshadowing of a new mechanic that we're sort of working with. What we like to do with mechanics as well is a lot of mechanics that have keywords now originally didn't have keywords. We tested them on 1 or 2 cards. If those cards turned out well, then we'd be like, alrighty, cool, let's make this into an official keyword and slap it on some other cards. If the mechanic didn't do too well, you know, we kind of just let it fade into the nether. And this is one of the examples of that. What we would like to do, what we're trying to push, is for those of you who have played Magic the Gathering and possibly Yu-Gi-Oh! And all those, you would probably draw a similarity. Well, actually, no, the complete opposite. Card advantage in our game is not really a thing. Very rarely is the fact that you have 5 cards instead of 7 or 1 card instead of 4 really an issue in Infinity Wars. Because of the fact, you know, you can stack your field, you can use your board presence to maintain yourself for a couple of turns while you draw cards back. Having a whole bunch of cards in your hand is usually just the norm. It's not something that you're having to take into consideration, and it's not a variable that we're taking into account when we play Infinity Wars. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make hand advantage an actual thing. It's a resource that we want to try to push. So with this particular card and a couple of other cards that we're going to be talking about today, will allow you to basically remove cards from your hand out of the game. They do not go to the graveyard. This is not a discard, so this cannot be used with, this can't be used with the sleepers. It can't be used with discard effects for the exiles. This is straight up removed from the hand. No benefit right now you can gain from that to get some type of effect. So this is, and when we try to trial an effect, an ability, mechanic sort of thing, we will either put it into a couple of different factions, or if we can, we'll make it factions, so we can see how it interacts with each of the different factions. Maybe Flame Dawn can, make better use of this card, or does Varroa make better use of this card, etc., etc. So, once we find out who can use the card best, who it sort of gels with the best, maybe we can make cards more tailored to that particular faction with this effect. So that's pretty much the story of the filing cabinet. In all good Infinity War stores near you.
I don't know if you saw it in chat when I showed the artwork where everyone was going, "It's a TARDIS! It's a TARDIS!" I was dying. I love you, chat. I love you so much. All right, what would you like to talk about next?
Next, let's go Nyx.
Nyx?
Nyx.
All right, Nyx. Let me bring him up really quickly.
Pedro Paz asked some question. Will we get to choose the two cards that we remove from our hand, or will it be random? You will get to choose. This is not an exile card. You will get to choose the cards that you remove from the game from your hand. The fact that where they're being removed straight from the hand allows us to give you that choice, instead of having to limit its strength.
I'm just waiting to watch the chat explode for this guy. I love Nyx so much. Nyx is the hero Gotham deserves. So, by all means,
really slow.
Exactly what Manchi just said. Demon of Fear is back, and he is really angry.
Yep. Alrighty, so
enjoy.
What we've got here, we have. How do I put this? Okay, so I've always been the first to admit when we've attempted to make cards and the cards haven't really done what we wanted them to do. This is take three at giving Flame Dawn a triple purity finisher. We tried it with Bloodbath. It didn't really work out. We tried it with, what's his name? Oh,
really?
Complete mind blank. No, because I can't say the name that we called him in studio, because that's not his name anymore.
His name's Baldo. You can call him Baldo.
Okay. Everyone knows that? Cool. Okay, so we made Baldo.
Hilderic, so everyone knows who he's talking about.
Hilderic. We made him. That didn't work either. It was a little outshined by the other Titans. So now we've come back for a third round to try to be like, all right, triple purity Flame Dawn. Here's hopefully what you guys need. So we weren't afraid to get super sexy with this guy. Okay, he is still going through a lot of balance changes on the test server. Don't be surprised if he hits maybe with an 8/8. Maybe he costs 6. I don't know. I don't know. We're still doing that sort of thing. But right now, we'll just look at him as he is. So he's a 5-drop 10/10 with charge, and he basically has the Demon of Fear effect, in which he comes into play. You can choose X amount of extra resources to spend and knock your opponent's players back to the support zone. So, pretty much, we figured, we're trying to be too fancy with Flame Dawn. With our other attempts at finishes, which by I mean Bloodbath and Hilderic, we were trying to be too tricksy, too fancy, and that's not what Flame Dawn is. Flame Dawn is not tricksy or fancy. It can be, maybe, when you mix it with something else, but that's really sort of like, GI's place. Flame Dawn rushes really fast and hits you really hard and then leaves. That's pretty much it. Or in terms of lore, it stays and then creates cities and then conquers new territories. But and that's what we've done here. We've gone like, okay, we're going to make an effect that everyone already knows. Everyone knows what Demon of Fear does. It's very straightforward, and we're just going to give it that Flame Dawn flavor and because Flame Dawn already has all the tools it needs to beat you. Flame Dawn already has all the tools in its arsenal to win. It just needs to have a way of getting those tools to your opponent's fortress. And we feel that Nyx is going to achieve that. So maybe Triple Purity Flame Dawn might actually be a thing again. Fingers crossed. I don't actually mind Triple Purity Flame Dawn being a thing. In everything in moderation, honestly. But I think we're at a point now in the game in which straight out rush, like straight out character rush, we have the mechanics and we have the failsafes in place to stop that from ever being absolutely straight up tier 1. Or at least dominant tier 1. We don't mind it being, one of the best, but we believe that, with all of Aurora and now the sort of Tibet decks and all the rest of that, it's going to be very hard for Triple Purity Flame Dawn to just completely dominate the metagame. So we're okay giving them cards like this that really allow them to be a bit more competitive. So yeah, that's pretty much Nyx.
There you go. Guys, again, I just want to state, if you're asking like what a specific card does that you see on my screen here, I'm not going to be answering that. If you're asking what specific cards are in order or anything of the kind, I'm not going to be answering that either. You're going to get a lot of answers by simply watching the stream. I'm going to be playing the game. Poga's going to be the mouth for a little while here. So you'll probably see what that card does when it comes up in combat when I start testing this deck. But I'm not going to just tell you outright what it is, because you'll probably see it. So
maybe to take those screenshots, analyze those spoilers.
Yep. And guys, just so you know,
make you work for it.
The reason you don't see Nyx animated here, I'll just remove it really quickly, is because he's overlaid on top of that area. It's an image. You're not actually looking at the card, because I'm building a deck. So, what would be the card you'd like to talk about next?
I'm
Nyx
just,
hype.
them off.
Hashtag Nyx hype. Go make it trend.
Yep. Make it big. Let's go Anger of Aoria.
Anger of Aoria.
From one side of the battlefield to the other. Let's
there
go
we are.
From rush to control.
Snow. If you guys are curious about cards, message me on the test server. Good play, buddy. All right. Okay, yeah, it's up. Go for it.
There we go, Anger of Aoria. So, let's just go over this card real quick. So, 2 Purity, 2 drop, ability card. As an additional cost to play Anger of Aoria, your fortress takes 10 damage. Deal 10 damage to your opponent's fortress. So, what this card is, obviously it's just a nuke. It's a straight up, it's like a Dark Blast, it's a Siphon Structure. But what's different about it? Why do we have this, and why not just sort of leave it a Dark Blast and all the rest of that? So, first thing is, we always want to be able to give players the ability to play an ability-based deck. Yes, characters are a good 70-80% of the game, but there are a lot of people, myself included, who loves to play a really ability-based deck and feel like that sort of control, I guess you'd call it a wizard in other games, but yeah, that real control-based deck that you basically, you lock down your opponent's battlefield and then you take them out from afar. We do want to offer that type of gameplay, so we felt that right now we wanted to give Triple Varroa a way of winning that isn't absolutely mind-numbingly boring to the opponent. Because without that really strong mid-range with the fabled Varroa nerf of 2014, with such victims as Demon of Fear, Brewery, and Hydra, and all that, so we took out their really powerful mid-game, characters, which a lot of people were using for win conditions. We attempted to then give them larger endgame characters, but with the nature of Infinity Wars, large endgame characters either need to have really artificial built-in resiliences in order to not just get death rate or assassinated straight out of the gate, or they need to have haste and things and kill you immediately, and neither of those do we really want to give to Varroa. So what we're doing now is we're trying to give Varroa the ability to kill you with ability damage, but do so in a way that they really have to be a bit more careful about it. They can't just go sort of shooting you willy-nilly with this, that, and the other. So we've, as you'll see with another couple of cards that we may go over today, Is getting a bit of a theme of um, structure health, structure damage sacrifice. So you pay 10 health, pay 10 structure damage or whatever, get to do an ability. These abilities are designed to be aggressive abilities that allow you to win the game. Um, so basically this is trying to give you the ability to win with an ability card that doesn't take 40 turns to execute or whatever, like an Oblivion. Um, but you really do have to have completely secured control of the game because, as I'm sure a lot of you know, when you're playing triple the raw, odds are you're going to get rushed down in the early game, and then you're going to be on lower health than your opponent. So using this card when you're on lower health than your opponent is a really risky thing to do. So we're going to see how this card sort of pans out. We've done quite a bit of testing with it, and we're going to see how it pans out on live. But that's sort of one direction that we're really hoping to go with Aoria, with Varor in the next couple of sets to try to give them that dimension and that extra win condition.
My favorite card in this set. I can't wait until the chat sees this card.
All right, well, why not?
I love you so much. I love that card beyond reason. Okay, what's next?
Yep, all good. Okay, so boom, just crossed them off my list. Next, Battlesuit. Battlesuit.
Genesis Battlesuit. Let me bring that up.
This one's.
Yeah, it was previewed.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you all know what this one is. But, so we'll get that one up on screen.
No, you can't see Flashbang. Go away. You'll see it when I play it, punks.
Alrighty, so Genesis Battlesuit. 3-drop, 7/7, sacrifice Genesis Battlesuit, target character gains 7/7. This ability can only be used while deployed. First of all, that little line on the end, yes, we did tag that on after development because it didn't take us too long to realize that on turn 1 you could play a support drone and then buff it with 2 Genesis Battlesuits. Genesis already has a pretty silly turn 1, turn 2 play anyway, so we didn't want that. So, but Genesis Battlesuit. So, we at Lightmare, who played the game and all the rest of it, and we feel that you guys as well, at least the fans of Genesis, they love Genesis when Genesis works. When you have a constructor on the field. I know that not everyone plays constructor these days, and we've really sort of gone out of our way almost to allow you to play without constructor if you want to. But when you've got your constructor out or your Landstead, and you're ramping you guys out of control. Okay, you're sacrificing one guy, dodges a death ray to put those stats on someone else, who then you rush out, you give Angelify, you swing over. It feels really good when you get these combos off. But a lot of the time, the combo does really hinge on some key cards. So what we're trying to do, with particularly Genesis Battlesuit and other cards like Mechanize, that I'm sure you guys have seen as well. Spoiler, it's been nerfed to 2 damage, to +2/+2 instead. But what we're trying to do here is to allow that sort of comboing and allow that really good feeling that you get from being Genesis without necessarily having to have all of these particular combo cards. So the facilitators of that combo are inherent to the cards themselves. So this allows Genesis Battlesuit to basically, sacrifice itself to constructor itself onto something else for free. We didn't really want to give it a cost. But this actually just reminds me, this is another sort of example. We are constantly changing cards. We're currently in a state where we're deciding whether we want to keep it static 7/7 or whether we actually want to make it so that maybe we'll raise the cost a little, we'll make it a 4-drop or something like that, but then have the ability that it basically straight up constructors it, in that it gives all of its current health and attack to something else. So we're not 100% sure where we're at with that. We're testing both right now, but that's an example of some changes that are still possible before the set launch. So yeah, that's sort of where we're going with GI a little bit, and specifically Battlesuit.
There you go. That's fine if you guys hate Genesis. I love Genesis. Bite me. Bite me. Alright. What do we got next?
Alrighty, next we've got Force Against the Law.
Force again. Oh god, this is going to be interesting when chat sees it.
Respect his authority.
Respect his fur. There we go. It's up.
We don't like to usually make card names any longer than 3 words, but he just held us down and forced it. So
we tried to tell him no. He
yeah,
told us yes.
but no. There you go. Force against the law. I have to say that with an attempt at a southern accent every time.
Here, do you want me to do it for you?
Please do. Kernel it up.
It's a force against the law.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. I'll say. That's a force against the law. Son.
It's okay. So he's Yosemite Sam now. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's Foghorn Leghorn. I resemble
Oh,
that one.
okay. God, I should facepalm myself right now. I'll be right back, everyone. I'm gonna facepalm.
Alrighty, so he's a 9-drop, 22/22, unstoppable. When force against the law attacks, all deployed flying characters your opponent controls move to the defense zone. As you can see by the art, he doesn't like angels. And we're trying to really push that through with this card.
It certainly does, Pixelay. Art
yeah,
plus name doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, in this case, the law is the angels, and the force is the giant tiger. And the force is therefore against the law. So yeah, basically, it's pretty. This card has a lot of what we call like intuitive purpose. You know what this card does. Also, we're giving this guy reach. Because, well, at least we're testing him with reach. We don't see any reason why he shouldn't have reach. He's already over the top.
Have haste? God, no.
No, not haste. That's silly.
God, no.
Yeah, so it does not have a beast type. Now, this is something that we're doing with Warpath a bit, is we're being a little bit more frugal with the beast subtype, because we know that we've created a lot of cards in the past that allow you to get beast cards. You buff beast cards, you search for beast cards, etc., etc. So by creating this giant subtype, we're actually able to have bigger cards like this that we can make super strong because they do not have that. They do not have as much synergy with the rest of Warpath as all of the other smaller beasts do. So this is a choice for us to make this a giant. Yeah, it's got a hand. It's like a hybrid thing. It's not.
No, I think the green-ish thing is actually her wings. It's just the tint of the Warpath environment. If you look on the top right corner, you'll see his hand.
R.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we do have the subtype giant, and we are starting to use that a bit more. Yes, as Swift pointed out, this is a card that you will have to, if you want to get the most use out of it, you are going to have to consider using it with priority. If you attack second, yes, you will still be able to rip through your opponent's angels, but you won't be able to do so before they get to attack you in return. So although it has an intuitive use, it looks like a powerful, sexy card from the onset, it does have that extra sort of depth that if a good player really recognizes its weaknesses, can use that to best effect.
Guys, the character that's in the forefront of the card, the foreground, sorry, is an overseer. That's a female angel.
It's a bit more obvious with the animation. She's sort of like hovering above.
Yeah, the tiger is reaching up towards her. Excessive. Let me give you a little bit of advice. Perhaps this advice may help you throughout the stream. Simply because you see something that does have an ability to counter against an Overseer's player does not mean that Overseers are underpowered or no longer viable. You should not be so quick to jump to that kind of reaction. You're only hurting yourself for the set.
Yeah. So what? Yes, Force Against the Law, in terms of its immediate impact, was designed as a little bit of a failsafe to. A bit more of a sort of answer to Overseers for Warpath, for late game Warpath. It was just as equally created as something like. A lot of people think that, like, control, really hard control, like mass deaths and death rays and all that sort of stuff are really sort of pretty bad for the game because, they create this slow, stale game state in which everyone's just killing everything. And to an extent, we do agree. But we actually found out that having mass flyers, like having a lot of stuff with flying, that just flies over defenders and kills you really quickly actually had even worse of an impact. Um, so we are trying to sort of tone that down a little. But this guy's a 9-drop. Overseers very much still have the capability of rushing a character down before this guy gets out, and even if this guy gets out, you splash a little bit of a roll for death ray or something if you're really scared. So the fact this guy's a 9, we're not too worried about him. He's pretty niche, but he's also very big and scary, which is what we like Warpath to be. Warpath, we don't feel the Warpath has been as big or as scary as it could have been. So yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna play against it, Snow. I am also very scared, because I have seen the power of DoD and Overseers on test server. I am in no way excited to play against that deck, and I know I'm gonna get it. So, meh. Which one next?
Alrighty, so, well, I did say that we have not previewed a DoD card, but we are not going to yet. We may get to it in a bit. Right now, we're going to go to our second...
they'll see plenty when I start playing matches. Oh my god. They'll see plenty.
Alrighty, so next we got Boyo.
Boyo! Come here, Boyo. Where are you, buddy? I'll find you. Come here, Boyo. There we go. There's Boyo. There's... Everyone enjoy. There's Boyo for you. There you go. And yes, everyone, I did actually force Mitch. Sorry, God.
It's okay.
I always
My name
do
is
that.
Mitchell.
Yeah, his name
fine.
is. Yeah, I always forget that. I did actually force him to talk about an Exiles card. So, not necessarily an anti-Yobo, but it's fun.
So
it's fun.
Time for the story of Boyo and Yobo. Okay, so starting, sort of rewinding the clock a bit back to Yobo. What we did with Yobo? Yobo was he was a bottom up design in which we wanted to counteract the morale gameplay that was happening at the time. Morale decks were a big thing, specifically morale ability decks, and we wanted to give everyone. This was back. This was back in the day where we couldn't really give each of the different factions specific answers. We sort of kind of still had to mix it into the faction list to give everyone an answer to a particular problem. So what we did with Yobo is we created him with his ability in mind. So we were like, okay, we know what we want him to do, and then the fact that everyone gained morale when he left the battlefield prompted us to think of, oh, hey, nobody likes this guy. Everybody's happy when he leaves. And that was the birth of Yobo, and everyone loved Yobo, ironically enough, and so did we, and it was a great success. Yay, streamers, little champagne poppers, all that sort of stuff. Everyone loved Yobo.
Get out of here, link spammer. Go away.
But then, we thought, well, we made Yobo, let's make a Boyo. Let's do the...
I love the way you said that.
Well, that was kind of the thought process, really. We don't always really have strict reasons why we're creating stuff. We're like, well, it kind of just seems like we should, right? So then we created Boyo, who everybody likes. Now, unlike Yobo, Yobo started with the effect, the cause, the reason why he exists, and the name came afterwards. With Boyo, we started with the name because we wanted to have a relationship. So this was a top-down design, in which we were like, okay, we want Boyo, who everybody likes. Now, what ability fits that name? Now, the first thing we did, and you'll sort of quickly jump on the reason why we changed this, is we figured we'd just reverse Yobo's effect. When Boyo leaves the field, your opponent loses X morale. And you lose X morale. Both people lose like 10 morale, right? And this was a no. We realized very quickly that this was a no, because not only was it factionless, but the reason we created Yobo was to counter morale nukes. And so by creating Yobo, we were just making the problem, we were adding to the problem that we were looking to solve in Yobo. So we got rid of that real quick. So, but what we did, we finally ended on this effect. And for those who haven't read it yet, so he's a 3-drop 7/7, a practical mirror of Yobo. While Boyo is deployed, the morale cost of other characters you control is reduced to 0. While when another character you control dies, Boyo's morale cost is increased by 5. So basically, the flavor all kind of ties into his flavor text, which you can't see it now, but his other sort of thing of flavor text was, at least it's not Boyo, you know. So that's pretty much what your army is thinking every time someone gets assassinated. Everyone's like, whew, well, Boyo's still here. But every time that happens, Boyo becomes more and more and more valuable to you. So, and that was sort of like the theme that we sort of came up with for the card. But we really like where the card is at now. We think it's really kind of, it's a bit of a niche card. There's a lot of combos that you can do with it. I want to make my Boyo bomb deck, in which you basically stock Boyo to the roof and then you infiltrate him over to your opponent's side of the field. There's a lot of fun that you can do with this card, but I guess for us the moral of the story is Yobo was bottom-up design in which we knew what we wanted to do with him, and we made him, and he was good, and he did what he wanted, and he was great, and it took us about 3 days to make up the whole effect. Boyo, when we start with the name and try to think of what the name means and how to make that into a game, possibly even fit him into a game where he might not really need to be, that took weeks of iteration. As much as everyone loves having a flavor cameo, they can be a lot of work sometimes. And for those who haven't seen it, over Boyo's, I guess, his right shoulder, or like the left side of the card, is Yobo sort of enviously looking through the horde of girls.
I love the entire concept of cards like this. Should I put a ferocity? Yeah, ferocity would make sense in this deck. Okay.
Alrighty. So, that is the Boyo.
What's next?
What's next? Well, kind of on a roll here. I'm liking this.
This is fun.
We were gonna. I kind of want to save the champion mechanic to last, so I'm thinking.
Okay.
But that's the last one on my list now. So, do you think we could open it up to chat? Maybe like you could make a straw poll.
No. We still have
We still have other
Exiles.
cards?
Brief visit to torment.
Oh yes. I didn't. Okay, cool. Brief visit to torment.
Bring that up.
Another 4-name word.
I love this card.
It's the set of long-winded names.
Yeah. Brief visit to torment. I love this card. Such a cool card.
And to answer a few of the questions in chat right now, with Boyo, if you were to do pretty much anything to him, if you were to return him to the hand, if you were to control temporal reality shift him, if you were to flicker him out of the game, all of that would reset his morale cost back to 0 without you losing. So he's very much a comboable card, and because of that, we may be nerfing him in the future, but we'll see.
And remember, everyone, every card is always subject to change before we release. Right. So,
this guy looks like he'd have killer jowls. He's like,
painful.
Alrighty. Cool. So, brief visit to torment. 3-drop ability. Target character is removed from the game in 1 to 3 turns. That character will return with double power and health that it left the game. So, this
is RNG. I can get behind.
Yep. This is sort of like we're taking rule number 1. There is going to be RNG. People love it. It's very rewarding when it works. Some people don't like it. A lot of people do. So, but we want to think of ways to put it into the game and actually have it work and not have it really feel, disjointed and disappointing whenever you use it. So, in doing that, initially this was a 33% chance. So, realistically, you would come back between 1 and 3 turns. We trial it over simulators and all the rest of it, and but sometimes you'd go for 4 turns. Sometimes it'd be 5 turns and even 6 turns, because when you have a 33% chance, you aren't always going to come back by 3 turns. So that was the last tweak that we made to this card. We made it 1 to 3, so it would come back at least 3 turns. At maximum, you'll get it on the 3rd turn. Also, another thing that RNG lets us do with this card is it allows us to balance it. If this card was target character is removed from the game for 2 turns and then comes back, or target character is removed from the game for 3 turns and then comes back, either of those, we would have to actually raise the cost of this card. We would have to crank this up to a 5-drop or a 6-drop, because that predictability on both sides of the play, on both sides of the battlefield, would make this card so much stronger. Because not only can you use this on your own cards, but you can use this on your opponent's cards as well. So you can use it to remove your target's character from the defense zone and swing through with the price of having it come back. And then you can also use it on your own characters, disabling them for X amount of turns with the reward of having him come back. But the fact that this is now random allows us to create this card that is quite a bit sexier, because when you activate it on an opponent, you can't really plan around it. You have to be like, okay, I'm going to remove this guy with the presumption that it's going to be gone for 3 turns, but it may be back earlier, etc., etc. So we really like this card. This is kind of the direction we want to go with RNG in the future, specifically with Exiles, and possibly then sort of seeping that into other factions. We've got some ideas for some sort of quirky RNG Genesis cards, but we're not sort of that's very much in the future. We're not really sort of up to that yet. So yeah, that's Brief as a Torment. I did see that someone put a note that it should come back as a demon. That is actually a good point, and I will be jotting that down, and we'll see if we can make that work. So
We
yeah.
are. So, did we have anything else left on that list other than champions?
But we can't add stuff to it. There's no reason we can't do that. I'm just sort of having a look on your screen whether there's anything there we want to have a.
If you
I'm
want,
a little disappointed that the Protector. I wanted to talk about the Protector.
really?
Yeah.
I mean, I can put up. I think I can find Pat's artwork if you want me to,
Yeah.
and just put it up, and you can talk about it.
Yeah, if we can
It's
get it
it's
up there,
obviously not
great.
on the test server, but I can find it.
Yeah. If you can
Okay.
just-
Okay.
Sorry for getting you to do extra stuff.
No, that's fine. That's let me get that off your face. There we go. Give me 1 second, everyone. Let me try and find this. Where are you? Oh my God. Oh God, please. No? No? No, it's
Alright,
not.
so
It's not in the art scrum. Do you want? I can bring up the alternate art one.
Yeah, just bring up the alt art. That'll
Okay.
be cool.
Okay.
Because everyone's already seen that anyway.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, and I'll do that. Let's see.
There
There
is
we go.
one sleeper card. For those of you guys talking in chat, there is one sleeper.
Okay, there we go. It's up.
Alrighty.
Is Splatterer ever going to be changed so he's a demon instead of no subtype? That's up to
Quite probably.
this guy. This guy.
Alrighty, so Noble Protector. So this is the alt art for Noble Protector, as we are currently unable to access the primary art. So this guy's gone through a few changes, and he's still quite a bit in flux, but his core ability has stayed the same, and will sort of stay the same. This guy is our answer, but our primary answer to Mad Monk. Now, we understand with the nerfs that we have made to the Mad Monk deck, it's not as, the community's gotten a bit used to it, it's not as insane as it used to be. But regardless, it's still a type of deck that we really, we felt that we had not created these failsafes that I was talking about before. We had created cards to, dodge death rates. We'd created cards to dodge character death, all the rest of that. But we had not created cards that basically just make your guy not be able to take non-combat damage. We hadn't created those cards. So what this guy is sort of like the trailblazer of that type of card. His effect is as reads: while on the battlefield, so that is the assault and defense, he can't sit in support. That was a change that was made relatively recently. While on the battlefield, characters you control cannot take non-combat damage from your opponent's characters. From your opponent. Just your opponent straight up. So characters you control cannot take damage from your opponent's non-combat damage. So that's everything from, Lightning Blast to Mad Monk to Spontaneous Combustion. All of that stuff is going to be useless as long as this guy sits on the battlefield. We wanted to make this card simple, we want to make this card elegant, and that's pretty much what he does. Now, this isn't the only card that has this type of effect. Oh yeah, Docile Panda, I see you guys talking about the Panda. He's basically, I'm pretty sure he's like a 121 with no effect. That's pretty much it.
Let me
There's
see
a
if he's
Panda.
actually
For lovers of Panda.
120. Yeah, 20.
There is not a new faction this release. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty comfortable saying this now. If we are to introduce a new faction, it'll happen at the beginning of each new set. At each new block.
Yeah.
Now, that with the exception of this block, because although Order is technically the first set of this block, we had just released the Overseers. Like, if we could reverse time, if we could go back and design the sets a bit more cohesively, we would be releasing Angels. We would be releasing Overseers now, but it's because we were a bit, we were just getting on our feet and just getting everything sort of done.